Maggie Barry.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to talk at the third reading of the Taxation, Annual Rates, Foreign Superannuation and Remedial Matters Bill. As I've said in my previous calls, and I would like to affirm at the beginning of this call, that this bill, with all its complexities, with all its technical difficulties, with all of the things that it seeks to readjust, is very simple at one level, and that is that we are trying to make this tax system fairer and more transparent so that people will comply with it. And that is at the essence of it. When it comes to foreign superannuation, which is something that probably to many people is one of the more interesting aspects of this piece of legislation because it does impact on so many people's lives, we need to really keep in mind that the current rules for New Zealanders who live overseas, for people who come to live in our country and bring with them their own superannuation funds, they have had to deal with some very complicated and variable superannuation schemes. And this bill really addresses those complexities. Under the proposed changes from the 1st of April 2014, lump sums from foreign superannuation schemes will be taxed only when they are withdrawn or when they are transferred to a New Zealand or to an Australian scheme. This tax would depend on the gains made while the person has been a New Zealand resident. And that's fair because it uses one of two calculation options. Not being taxed on accrual under the Foreign Investment Fund rules is a major simplification. It's going to make it a whole lot easier for a lot of people who want to come and settle in this country and have been genuinely confused, as have their advisors. And people came and made submissions to us, talked to us at length about how tax specialists and experts found this to be a very confusing area. And so when we look at the detail of this legislation, and I commend the advisors, I commend the people who've drafted this because it is complicated and it's been a minefield. And I think that the path has been trod very well and very carefully. So I'm very pleased with the legislation as it is, and I know that Todd McClay, as the presiding minister on this piece of legislation, is as well. It has been shepherded through the Finance and Expenditure Select Committee, of which I'm currently Deputy Chair, but Todd McClay was the chair of it at the time when this was first introduced. So I give you that background by way of explaining the rigour that has gone into this and the length of discussion that has gone on as well. We really do want to make it as simple as possible for people to meet their tax obligations. And making, for example, getting back to the foreign superannuation, one of the measures that I particularly approve of is that when people are transferring their foreign superannuation scheme interests into KiwiSaver, and they want to make it then a withdrawal from the KiwiSaver scheme to pay for their tax bill. And that's going to allow people who complied with their tax obligations by using that foreign investment fund rules before May 2013 to continue using those rules in relation to that interest after 2014. And that's when those new proposed rules, of course, will come into effect. And those measures do make it fairer and easier for people who haven't actually got an amount of money that they might need to pay their tax. So as with the student loans amendment, we are trying to make it possible for people to pay back their loans, to do what they need to do because they need to actually meet their obligations. As we've said about the student loan scheme, it is not a gift, it is a loan, and people have obligations to pay it back. And that is an issue of fairness, and so too is this bill. So I commend it to the House. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member Andrew Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker.